The last part, Clem and Gabe hit the road, leaving Richmond behind to find AJ, but things got real interesting when they clashed with a familiar face. Well, at least for Clem. We'll be seeing how this affects the story in part 2 of What If Gabe Left Richmond with Clem. Now, Gabe doesn't know who this guy is, but Clem is completely blown away. Kenny, in disbelief, says her name, and she hugs him while Gabe stands there confused as hell. You'd be given the option to apologize only if your Clem stabbed him in the arm. Otherwise, you can tell him that you missed him, ask how he made it this far, or compliment his ability to fight with one eye. With the first option, he says he'll be fine and he actually has some supplies not too far from here. For the second, he says that he missed her too and he can't believe how much she's grown. The third option would make him laugh and say he still got it, and the final choice would lead to him talking about Wellington and how he barely scraped by with the supplies Edith gave him. Kenny's eye narrows at Gabe, who is very intimidated by this one-eyed guy. Clem introduces Gabe, and he'd hold out his hand, offering Kenny to shake it. Kenny still keeps his eye squinted at Gabe, but he eventually daps him up, making him flinch from how hard he grips his hand. The intros are cut short when Kenny asks where the boy is. Gabe butts in and asks if he's talking about AJ, and this would make Kenny slightly angry, but he waits for Clem to respond. She can see the anger building up on his face. She tells him they're on their way to get him right now. They already know where he is, they just need to get there. This is enough to make him chill for now. He tells the two kids that he's joining them on their trip and they should get going right away. She also gives Kenny his hat back. He asks if AJ ever wore it, and she tells him the hat was too big and he's still too small to wear it. In canon, Kenny's hat vanished after Wellington was attacked. Even if Clem literally grabs the hat and puts it in her bag during the flashback, for the rest of the series, it's never seen or mentioned again, which is really dumb in my opinion. The group would walk for a bit while Kenny and Clem reconnect. They bring each other up to speed on what happened after they separated. So by now, Kenny knows about what happened in Richmond, and Clem knows about how he survived after Wellington. The duffel bag Edith gave him was able to keep him fed for a few months. He says he actually went back to see if any spots had opened up, because remember, Edith told them to check back in a few months to see if there was enough room to join if you chose to leave. I feel like canon Kenny would have tried this because realistically there's nowhere else for him to go. Clem and AJ were all he had left. He wanted to ditch Wellington and go to Florida where it was warmer for AJ, as he was tired of waiting for them to be accepted into Wellington. When he made it back, the site was destroyed, and even worse, he saw Edith's body lying on the ground nearby. It looked like someone shot her clean in the head. He searched the area for Clem and AJ, but their bodies were nowhere to be found. He just hoped it meant they made it out safely. Gabe is starting to feel left out right about now, so he interrupts and asks what was AJ like. She tells him AJ is a brave goofball if you chose to inject him with the medicine, or that he was an artist, referencing the picture that he drew for her. It takes a while, but they still find McCarroll Ranch, except they don't have any horses this time around. I don't know how Clem found that horse in canon, because when she left, she was clearly leaving on foot. So yeah, no horses for them. They sneak up around a bush to see McCarroll Ranch on fire. They hear gunshots and people screaming. It's total chaos. Kenny starts to worry. He wants to rush in and get AJ, but Clem tells him to calm down as they need a plan. Gabe suggests he and Clem sneak up on the guys while Kenny covers them from a distance. She agrees and Kenny says not bad, but they're spotted while reaching the entrance. Kenny shoots one of the guys, creating an opportunity for the two kids. How Gabe will deal with the rest of them is a consequence of how you played as Javier. Choices like shooting Conrad and Joan and staying with Clem to fight will dictate what he does here. If you only chose one or none of the actions, Gabe will knock out the guys with his bat. If you chose two or more, he'll shoot them instead. They find the nursery AJ's kept in, and the lady still mistakes them for raiders. So, she unfortunately dies the same way she does in canon. Clem gets AJ out the locker and calls Kenny and Gabe over. Kenny runs in the nursery and sees Clem holding AJ with a smile on her face. He falls to his knees saying, "Oh my god." Clem hands the boy over to Kenny and he holds him. They still find the car and leave the ranch, but Kenny is driving this time. With that, we end the flashback. Episode 1 starts with Kenny driving instead of Clem. Keep in mind, about 2 years have passed by now, so AJ is no longer a toddler, and Gabe's relationship with Kenny and Clem have improved. He plays more of a big brother role towards AJ, while Clem still has the motherly role she did in canon. Kenny's role towards AJ is definitely father-like. They enter the train station where they find the Walker couple. Here, AJ asks what it means to be a couple, and Clem tells him it's when two people are in love. He then asks if Gabe and Clem are in love. Kenny butts in and says they're too young to understand what love really is. They still get the food the same way they did in canon, and the bomb would still go off, causing the walkers to flood in. Gabe and Kenny hold the walkers off while Clem tries to start the car. It's easier to hold them off this time due to having more people here. Clem still crashes the car, and they're saved by Marlon and wake up in the boarding school. Clem wakes up, and she tackles Tennessee, asking him where her people are. Marlon draws his bow, telling Clem to step back. He tells her everyone is okay. Gabe and AJ are in the piano room with Lewis, and Kenny's resting up in the infirmary. They're not too keen on having adults around, but they're not gonna just save everyone and leave Kenny to die. Like, if he's with them, they're gonna save him too. So he takes her to Kenny first. He's slightly banged up, but he's okay. They enter the piano room to see Gabe and Lewis talking about baseball and AJ tapping keys on the piano. Quick side note, AJ is definitely less paranoid and on edge here. He actually gets to be a kid, not constantly having to look over his shoulder. He has a whole makeshift family looking out for him. So the whole don't sneak up on me BS doesn't happen, and the loudest bad stuff doesn't happen either. He doesn't bite Ruby or elbow Marlon in the nuts. The walkers still approach the school, so Gabe, Clem, and Kenny help defend it. Gabe uses his bat, Clem uses her knife, and Kenny uses a knife that Mitch made. Things go pretty much the same as they did in canon, only this time Gabe saves a sim from the walker. He takes his bat and knocks its knees out, causing it to fall. He then bashes its head in. He's learned a few things from Clem here. Rosie still saves Clem from the walker and begins growling at her. Marlon calls her over and reassures her, saying Rosie's harmless. Kenny backs him up, kneeling down and petting her. He instantly takes a liking to Rosie here. Remember, his family had lost a dog before this, so he's loving Rosie right now. After dinner is served, Kenny and AJ sit with 10, and he draws them both in his picture. Clem and Gabe stay at the table, and this is where Lewis suggests they play War, but Gabe suggests they play Euchre instead. It's up to the player to decide what they want to play. If you choose to play Euchre, while Gabe is explaining the rules, Lewis says that it sounds too complicated, so they end up playing War regardless. This is Telltale, and your choices matter but don't at the same time, so yeah. A few differences occurred during the card game. Instead of Lewis asking if Clem ever had a boyfriend, he asked if she and Gabe are dating. They both quickly deny this. If Clem asks about meeting someone famous, Gabe tells the group about Javi and how he used to be a sort of famous baseball player. When Lewis asks if they ever had to kill someone they love, regardless of what you did to Lee, Gabe speaks up and tells him about David and how he stopped him from becoming a muerto. Muerto? Oh, yeah, he explains to them that muerto just means dead in Spanish. They end the game and everyone goes to bed, except this time their dorm is actually full. Kenny and AJ take one bunk bed while Gabe and Clem take the other. The next day, the group discussed with Marlon about staying long term. You still decide who you want to hunt with, only this time whoever you don't choose, Kenny and AJ will go hunt with. If Gabe and Clem go hunt with Lewis, the boys would joke around and have even more fun with the Walker Pinata since Gabe has a real bat, which slightly annoys the sim. If Gabe and Clem go with Violet, they both help her sort out her issues with Brody. The group still go back to the train station and Lewis is the distraction. Since we have a bigger group, Gabe and Violet keep watch outside while Kenny covers Clem. AJ gets the food from the hatch and Clem starts to fill the bags. However, the man known as Abel still arrives and asks for some food. Kenny curses at Abel, telling him to go to hell. The two men glare at each other while AJ draws his gun, pointing it at Abel. Amused by this child, Abel turns his attention to AJ. Gabe hears the noise and slowly enters the room. Abel, being distracted by Kenny and AJ, doesn't notice this, but Clem does. You can either signal him to attack or to run. If you told Gabe to attack, he uses his bat and hits Abel in the back of the head. While he's still dazed, Kenny disarms him, threatening to shoot. Abel agrees to leave, and he does, but also smashes a window while leaving to bring the walkers towards them. If you told him to run, you get the canon choices with one variation. You either give him some food, which makes him leave peacefully, or push him into the walkers, which plays out like normal. But if you stay to fight with Clem in Season 3 as Javi, Gabe will refuse to listen and attack Abel anyway. No matter which of the three outcomes you get, they pack the rest of the food and go back to the school. Back at the dorms, Kenny will thank Gabe if he attacked Abel. This would be the first time Kenny has shown genuine appreciation for him. However, if Clem gave up the food, Kenny and AJ will express their disappointment but understand why she did it. During the night, Brody and Marlon still have their argument, which wakes Clem, AJ, and Gabe. Kenny, being older and not having as sharp ears, is still asleep for now. Clem goes down into the cellar, while Gabe and AJ wait for her at the stairs. She finds out that Marlon gave up 10 sisters and planned to give 3 of them away too. Trading all 4 of them would be too suspicious. Marlon planned to get rid of the grown-ups and keep AJ telling everyone they died protecting him from walkers. He accidentally kills Brody and tries to escape the basement. He's grabbed by Gabe and a small struggle ensues, but he's able to free himself and tells the group that Clem did it. She gets out of the basement to see AJ and Gabe accusing him of lying and Kenny angrily demanding to know what happened. Also, the school wouldn't believe Marlon as quickly due to having 2 bystanders around when Brody died. Marlon still comments about Clem being covered in Brody's blood, and while they're caught off guard, Marlon disarms AJ, pointing his gun in the air. Gabe lunges at him but stops when Marlon aims the gun at him. Clem tells everyone about Marlon's plans, and Gabe looks over at him completely disgusted. Kenny's riled up when he hears this. This bastard's really gonna get rid of them and try and keep AJ. He points the gun at Clem next, and here you get to choose who you want to appeal to. Regardless of who you pick, both Vi and Lewis would side with Marlon for the moment. Gabe then interferes, stepping in between Marlon and Clem. With Marlon scoffing, he asks if she's really worth dying for. Gabe says that he and Marlon are different. He'd easily risk his life to protect the people he cares for, but Marlon would just surrender to save himself like he did to the twins. He's a coward. As Clem, you get 3 choices. You can continue to convince who you appeal to, which plays out like normal, tell Kenny to grab the gun, which leads to Kenny and Clem getting shot, causing a game over, grab the gun yourself, which also plays out like normal, or stay quiet. If you stayed quiet, Gabe's words start to seep into Marlon's head. He drops the gun and falls to his knees defeated, saying, "You're right. I can't." His sentence is cut off as AJ still shoots. AJ and our group is faced with hostility for obvious reasons, but everyone agrees to discuss things in the morning. Clem wakes up to Gabe either commending AJ for his bravery or expressing disapproval of his actions. Kenny, being indifferent, only cares about staying at the school where it's safe. They can't go back on the road. Not again. Ultimately, it's up to Clem to decide if he did the right thing or not. They head to the funeral and still end up taking the vote for the group to stay. However, they still get kicked out. Even though Lewis and Gabe are boys here, I don't think it's enough for him to vote for them to stay. Like, think about it. We all know how Lewis felt about Clem in the game, and he still voted for them to leave. So I think him voting in favor of Gabe is even less likely. While Lewis and Violet escort the group past the safe zone, Gabe asks Clem if Richmond is still an option. Javi did tell them to come back. Kenny answers saying it's probably gone to shit by now, but he hopes his family is still okay. You can either agree with Kenny, say it could be an option, or tell him it's too dangerous. In the end, Clem says without the car, they're not going anywhere. Lewis comments about them being used to this, and this pisses Kenny off. The nerve of this kid. He's gonna teach him a lesson. Clem notices this and tells him to calm down. They're ambushed by Lily and Abel, who punches Gabe if he attacked him before. Clem tries to go after him, but stops when she holds Kenny up. "Not too hasty, Lily. We need them alive." Wait. Lily? Clem and Kenny both recognize her. As she lowers her gun, she says, "Clementine?" She takes one more good look at Kenny, and anger starts to fuel her. "You're Kenny." With that, we end part 2 of this What If. I liked how I built up the background plot of Kenny getting Ben vibes as soon as he met Gabe and not knowing how to feel about him, but he mainly tolerates him being around because Clem and him seem to be good friends. And Gabe is continuously trying to prove to Kenny, Clem, and himself that he can help people and he's not a pushover anymore. I really like the direction I'm taking that in, and I hope you guys like it too. If you did, be sure to like and sub, and also drop ideas in the comments to let me know what you guys think of this part. I have another What If I'm working on at the time of this recording, so get ready for that. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys next video.